Hi, this is Teddy, and you're listening to Nabilah Islam in Georgia on Two Broads Talking Politics.
Are you listening?
Hi, everyone. This is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Demcast family of podcasts, and I am on today with Nabilah Islam, who is running for Congress in the Georgia 7th District. Hi, Nabilah.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. So I definitely want to talk some about the FEC and about your district, but let's start with sort of a general overview. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Congress.
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, my name is Nabilah. I am the daughter of working class immigrants from Bangladesh. And so my family came to this country about 40 years ago seeking the American dream. I was born in Atlanta, and I grew up in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And, worked here and worked at Walmart and Ingalls in high school. And I graduated from Georgia State University. It's one of the most diverse counties in the country. It's actually the fourth most diverse county in America. And growing up, I never saw anyone that looked like me or reflected the diversity or values in the district. So I got involved in electoral politics right after college, working on campaigns for a candidate that ran for city council in Atlanta. And he was a long shot candidate, and he overtook a 12-year incumbent. And I worked on campaigns from Secretary Hillary Clinton, and most recently, I worked at the DNC where I oversaw the southern region to help rebuild the National Party after we lost to Donald Trump. And the reason that I am running now is because this district, which is a diverse working class district, has never had any reflective representation of our community or values. It's a district that's been left behind because of Republican leadership. About 20% of this district doesn't have health care. We have the highest deportations Gwinnett County does in the state, and we have the largest pretrial detention center in the country in Gwinnett. And so I'm running to give this community a voice and bold progressive representation in Congress.
All right, excellent. And at least on paper, this looks like it should be one of the most flippable districts this time around in 2020. It nearly flipped in 2018. So tell me some about, sort of what you see as the path to victory, what this race looks like, and how you're hoping to flip it in 2020.
As you mentioned, this was a seat that the Republican only won by 433 votes, and it was the closest federal election last cycle. This district was also, Stacey Abrams actually flipped it when she ran for governor. So I believe that this district will flip blue for the right candidate, and I think the path to victory is really just, speaking to the issues that are affecting the day-to-day people in this district, the working class, immigrants, people of color. And that is certainly something our campaign is doing. We are, taking on bold progressive positions like Medicare for all, advocating for living wages starting at $15, advocating for comprehensive immigration reform and criminal justice reform and a Green New Deal. And so many of these policies are really resonating with this working class district. What we're doing right now, since we're about less than 90 days from our primary election, is we have a really strong ground operation where we're meeting people where they are at their doors. And I really believe that this is a district that, in order to win this in the general, we're going to have to expand the electorate and include people that have felt disenfranchised or just haven't felt seen in the past. This is something that we're certainly doing through messaging and through meet and greets and knocking on doors. This is, in Georgia, you have to get over 50% in order to become the nominee. And I think this will probably end up being a two-step primary where we will have a primary runoff. So I'm very encouraged by what we've been hearing on the ground, that we'll be able to make it into that runoff and then become the nominee from there.
So I'd like to ask too about this petition that you made to the FEC. So you've asked the FEC to be allowed to use campaign funds for health insurance. And I will admit, until I saw your petition, I did not know that you could not use campaign funds for health insurance. So tell me a little bit about why you did that, what that process looks like, and what that would mean if candidates are able to do that.
So running for office, Congress, any office, it's really hard and cost prohibitive, especially for working people. Right now, I haven't had health insurance since last year, and I think it's something that working class candidates deserve to have on the campaign trail until we pass Medicare for All, where healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. What I'm asking for the first time in history, I'm asking the FEC to be able to let candidates use campaign funds to pay for health care. So right now, candidates all over the country, you can't use campaign funds let's say if you want to take a salary and pay yourself, you can't do that until you qualify. So I've been running, and my qualifying is coming up next month. So I've been running a year now without the ability to use campaign funds, because the FEC explicitly doesn't say that candidates can use campaign funds to pay for health care. And I'm hoping that they'll rule in our favor in a similar way that they ruled for Luba Gretchen Shirley, who was a working mother who last cycle challenged the FEC to be able to use campaign funds to pay for childcare, and they did so for her. I'm hoping that they rule in favor for working class candidates like myself to be able to pay for health care on the campaign trail, because there are structural barriers for people like myself to even feel encouraged to run for office in the first place. Well, I've actually, put my student loans in forbearance, and I did have a healthcare plan that wasn't ACA compliant last year. It didn't really, let's say if I was canvassing and I got hit by a car, it would not have paid, I wouldn't have been able to use it to pay for my ambulance or hospitalization costs, and it really didn't do anything for me at all. So I had to put my loans in forbearance and cut that health insurance plan in order to continue to run for office. And so I believe that a ruling in my favor would, open up the halls of power, the halls of Congress, for many more working class candidates who have been sitting by the sidelines because it is very cost prohibitive to run for office in the first place.
And it seems like, I have not run for office myself, but it seems like running for office puts you at risk for a lot of communicable diseases, things like flu and, coronavirus and things like that you need to be thinking about, and that we would want to make sure that people who are out there knocking on doors and shaking hands and giving speeches, in fact, are in good health or are able to go get the healthcare that they need. Absolutely.
No, Definitely. I think everyone should have health care, including candidates that run for office. And you're definitely right. We do shake a lot of hands. We're knocking on doors and want to make sure that everyone's healthy.
So you have this interesting background, as you mentioned, that you worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign and you worked for the DNC, but you're also a strong progressive. People have referred to you as, Atlanta's AOC, and you've been endorsed by a number of really progressive politicians. So I want to sort of tease that out a little bit and what that means to have sort of both the progressive chops and the progressive endorsements, but also, sort of being a party insider in a way, and what that might mean, and then sort of looking more broadly, how we're going to need to be able to bridge some of these divides that have popped up, certainly as we move past the presidential primary, things like that. So, does it feel to you like there is this divide? Do you see ways that people can sort of come back together a little more? What does that look like to you?
I think that is a great question. I feel like people are united to defeat Donald Trump. And right now people have their favorite candidates, whether it's Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Bloomberg or Biden or Pete Buttigieg. But at the end of the day, I feel like people will come together because this has been is the worst president that I've had in my lifetime and is a threat to this country. And I think overall, though, for me, they have referred to me as Atlanta's AOC, although I like to tell people that I'm going to be the first Nabilah Islam of my community. So, the reason that I am running on the progressive policies that I am is because I really and truly believe that these are the policies that will implement transformational change in our communities. For so long, incrementalism hasn't been helping us. It's something that, they tell you to wait. You're trying to change things too fast, but people in the working class have been waiting long enough. They deserve to have paid living wages at $15 an hour. It's been about a decade since we've increased the minimum wage. People in this district, about 20%, 135,000 people don't have health care. So about 60,000 people die every year because they go see a doctor too late. We're the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't have some form of basic universal health care. So I understand the urgency of a lot of people wanting change now because for a lot of people, they can't wait any longer. But I feel like at the end of the day, after the presidential election, I believe whoever the nominee is, people will unify in order to beat Donald Trump.
I hope so. And, I think I've been trying to sort of think my way through some of this and feel like it's not as big a divide, as it's often made out to be on places like Twitter, and that hopefully we can sort of see the things that unite us as a party, as a people.
Mm-hmm. I feel like social media has an outsized voice. Most people aren't on Twitter, but Twitter itself can be very combative and toxic. I've had people will feel emboldened to say things that they would never say to your face, and I've had that fair share happen to me, specifically with Islamophobia. But I feel like people on the ground really want to get Donald Trump out. So I'm confident people will unify at the end of the day.
So you mentioned that you're the daughter of immigrants, and that the area of the country that you're in is a lot more diverse than I think a lot of people might realize when they're thinking about Georgia. Talk to me a little bit about what you would like to see, what sorts of immigration reform you would like to see, what you would like to see Congress doing. Obviously, there's a ton that needs to be fixed after the current administration, but what are some of the concrete steps that you'd like to see?
So as I mentioned before, this district is very diverse. It's a majority minority district, and Gwinnett itself is the fourth most diverse county in the country. It actually has the fastest growing South Asian population in the entire country as well. And I am the daughter of immigrants from Bangladesh, and so I have an intimate experience with the immigrant experience. And our county, Gwinnett, has the highest number of deportations than any other county in the state. And the reason that's happening is because 287G, which is an archaic immigration policy that only 2% of counties in the country employ, is how it works is that they deputize local law enforcement, so local sheriffs, to do ICE's bidding. So they can now, if they stop you for a traffic stop and they want to issue a detainer on you because all of a sudden they find out that you're not documented, ICE can come in within 48 hours, put you in a detention center and deport you. And it's something that, Republicans say that it's keeping our communities safe, but in fact, it's separating families from each other. And so at the federal level, I would want to ban programs like 287G, certainly pass the bill to have a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented Americans in this country, and definitely making sure that people that receive DACA, so Gwinnett County has the largest number of people who receive DACA in the state. And many of these people are people I went to school with. And I've seen them suffer under not being able to have a pathway to citizenship. And that's something I'll definitely advocate for at the federal level.
Georgia is also going to be on the front lines for climate change. Certainly all of the states in the South are going to be hit with warming, but also having a coastline. Talk to me some about what you would like to see Congress doing to combat climate change, what that looks like, and then, what you hear from people in the district if this is an issue that is really engaging them.
So this is, now a climate crisis, and people in Georgia are very aware of the fact that this is happening and it's affecting our daily lives. There's two prongs to this. So I'm advocating for a Green New Deal because I definitely believe that we need to move away from fossil fuels and transition into an economy that is based on renewable energy. Georgia itself is one of the highest recipients of sunshine. I don't know if you've ever been to Atlanta, but it does get very, very hot here. So we have the potential to really capitalize on, renewable energy economy by creating hundreds of companies and thousands of jobs by being a leader in solar energy. Climate change, this climate crisis affects, working people the hardest, our frontline communities. And that's something that I've been definitely hearing on the ground is, people are concerned about the quality of air, being able to have clean water. People want to make sure that they are protected by their government from the forces of what climate change has been bringing upon our communities. And so at the federal level, I definitely will push for a Green New Deal.
Like a lot of other states, Georgia this year is separating out the presidential primary from the congressional primary, which, could certainly lead to a little bit of a lack of turnout in one or the other, or confusion at the very least. What are you hearing from people? Do they understand, just the typical voter on the ground understand that there are two primaries? Are they fired up to vote? And, are they thinking about the congressional race?
So from what I've seen, a lot of people are very surprised that we have two primaries. Our own campaign has and having to do a lot of voter education, reminding people that they need to check their voter registration, making sure that everything is good to go, that they're active, that they haven't been purged, and then reminding them that there's a primary in March and that the Georgia primary for our Georgia elections are on May 19th. So I think we'll naturally see a higher turnout for the presidential election because that's something that everyone hears about on the airwaves. But locally, we have an opportunity to not only flip our district blue, we also have to keep my next door district, Congresswoman Lucy McBath's district, blue as well. And then at the Senate level, we have an opportunity to get back or flip two U.S. Senate seats. So I think people are, generating a lot of enthusiasm around these Georgia elections and reminding people how important it is that people come out twice, not just once, because, it's very important that we pick the candidate that we feel like speaks for us and at the primary and get our nominee out so that we can elect them in the general.
What can listeners do to help out your campaign if people are listening either within Georgia or from around the country and would like to help out? What's the best way for them to do so?
They can visit my website at nabilahforcongress.com, and the way I spell that is NABILAHFOR, congress.com. They can also follow me on Twitter at Nabilah4GA07. It's the same for my Instagram. And if folks are listening that live in Georgia or live in the district, they can sign up to volunteer on my website, or if they'd like to contribute, they can do so on there as well.
All right. Well, Nabilah, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, and thanks for running. I love that we have so many millennials that are running, and I think it's just fantastic. And I am so glad that you're drawing attention to this idea that it's so difficult for people without a lot of resources to run for office with things like needing health insurance.
Yes, I want this ruling to be in our favor so that we have more young people, more working people, more people of color run for office, because we definitely need a Congress that looks like our country. And right now we don't. So hoping to change that.
Thank you for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Dimcast Podcast Network. Our theme song is called Are You Listening off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Wethlin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.